What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Fly, and Franky is a super weird dude. Sorry for the delay. I usually would have had a couple videos out by now, but I had some PC issues. But we're back in action, and I'm pretty sure most of you guys listening don't even care about this issue and just want me to talk about our favorite cyborg. And that's what we're gonna do. As you guys know by now, it is the After Wano series, so we're gonna be talking about each Straw Hat and what happens to them after Wano. So that means power-ups, bounties, abilities, as well as character growth and progression. And here we are talking about our favorite cyborg with the Iron Schmied. Does Franky have nuts? Now that I think about it, after that sea train accident, he must have. But how do you recreate semen? You know what? Someone please send Oda this question on one of the SBS, because these are questions that need answers. I love me some Cuddy Flammer while Franky in his reappearance in chapter 988 by running over Big Mom's face put a smile on mine, even though a lot of people are like, oh my god, Big Meme strikes again, Big Meme. We're not going to talk about her. We're just going to talk about Franky and his awesome. Now, Franky is one of the weirdest things to ever come out of the story of One Piece. He got hit by a train and then somehow reconstructed his entire body except for his back into a cyborg. I was not a big fan of Franky's design post time skip. It looked a little weird to me, and I was just like, where is his magnificent hair? Where did it go? What happened to it? And then we seen that he can do different hairstyles, and I was like, okay, Franky, I love you. Franky is a work of art, and he can do magnificent things with his hands, and that kind of sound a little bit sexual, but we're gonna run with it. But I digress. What I'm trying to say is that Franky is great at creating weapons and upgrading his body and doing modifications. Things such as creating laser beams, nipple lights, rockets and cannons coming out of his shoulders, even upgrading the Sunny to make a giant energy beam, and able to create the General Franky that he had once thought of pre-time skip, which is a giant robot that could do a few things like shooting cannons out of his shoulders by coming out of its stomach and using a giant sword and swinging around. It's quite a magnificent thing when you see it. In Wano, the country that he's currently in, they're known for creating a certain material used worldwide and used by the Marines, and that material is sea stone. Sea stone actually originated from Wano, and over there it's used to create weapons and sort of other tools, like when Hawkins used a sea stone nail. And well, Franky does love weapons, so I can definitely see Franky using sea stone a part of his kit and upgrading his body or weaponry with the sea stone over in Wano. Because I'm telling you now, I do not see Franky getting Haki or gaining Haki. If he did, I would say armament, so to boost his offensive and defensive capabilities. That would make more sense for Franky. I don't see him being an observationist dude. Observational, it doesn't matter. I just don't see Franky getting Haki at the moment, and honestly, he doesn't really need it, especially he has sea stone upgrades and adds it to his weaponry. That will solve the issue of him being able to fight Devil Fruit users. He can coat his weaponry and even his body with sea stone, creating a sea stone type of armor. Maybe he used that in special occasions or something of the sort. He can even add that to the General Shogun Franky. General Franky, I think that's its name. And not just for weaponry, Franky could also use the sea stone on the Sunny Go, where you can put it at the very bottom of the ship so it won't be detected by Sea Kings. As with the Marines, they do that at the bottom of their ship so they can bypass the calm belt. And as of this recording, we actually have not seen any sea stone weaponry ever since Hawkins used it on Zoro and Law. And those are just nails, and Franky's a lot more creative than that, so he will probably use that sea stone to a greater extent, creating magnificent, crazy ass weapons, like actually creating sea stone cannonballs or sea stone rockets, sea stone bullets, or stuff like that. Franky and the crew were in Wano for about a month or maybe longer, so Franky probably did stock up on some sea stone material. He was a carpenter for quite some time, so him knowing the in and outs of Wano and learning more about sea stone and adding it and stockpiling it makes a lot of sense, and he probably used that on his General Frank, mixing it in with the Wappo metal. Franky did promise Luffy that he was going to create weapons that will be able to take down Kaido and the Beast Pirates. We have yet to see those weapons, but we did see a motorcycle drive over Big Mom's face and make her fall on her ass. A lot of people are going to be mad. I'm just joking with you guys, but what I'm trying to say is we have yet to see those weapons, and I can't wait to see them in action. And speaking of weapons, Big Mom and Kaido's alliance did mention that they were in search for the ancient weapons to cause war and destruction throughout the world and to become the Pirate King and Queen. The Pirate Kings? Do they plan on being co-ed Pirate Kings? I don't know how that's gonna work out, but that's their plan. I don't think it's really thought out all that much, because I'm still wondering how they're gonna find the ancient weapons, because I don't know, like, was it just like, were they in the room and just like, how are we gonna start a great war, Kaido? And then Kaido's like, yo, maybe we should just get the ancient weapons. And then Big Mom's like, yeah, let's get ancient weapons. And then they're like, do you know where they are? And they're like, no. And they're like, huh, we'll figure it out. But anyways, with talks of ancient weapons, there's no way you can't talk about our boy Cuddy Flam, aka Franky. Back in Water 7 and Annie's lobby, Franky was a central point to the story because he had the blueprints of the ancient weapon Pluton, or at least a backup ancient weapon to make sure that if Pluton was in the wrong hands, they had a weapon themselves they can create and destroy that to combat against Pluton. But last we seen of that was when Franky burnt those blueprints to a crypt. From the looks of it, it seems as though those blueprints are gone from history, but I don't think it's as simple as that. In fact, I think one day or at some point in the future, Franky will have to create that weapon once Pluton has been rediscovered. It's a little plot point that I think will return, and in fact I think Franky actually still remembers the blueprints in his head, and that's why he burnt it, because he didn't really need it anymore in case it fell into the wrong hands, because at the end of the day it's still all in his mind. And Franky's a very smart dude. In fact, he's probably a super genius with the way he works things. Franky probably knows that one day he might have to actually create that weapon if Pluton were to ever be found out or rediscovered. And I seen the theory that the Sunny Ghost actually Pluton in disguise. I don't think that's the case. That'd be cool, but I don't think that's the case at all. After Wano, once the Straw Hats face the biggest threat that they've ever seen, maybe the cleansing or someone has rediscovered or found one of the ancient weapons, Franky will have to create Pluton 2.0 to combat this weapon. And it would be a very cool character moment for Franky, because if you remember in his flashback, Tom told him no matter what type of ship you make, whether it's helpful or a weapon that will destroy the world, you should be proud of every ship that you make. And well, Pluton's exactly that, a weapon that can potentially destroy the world. So it will be a very nice callback to that moment back with Tom at Water 7. But there's also one other thing for Franky to do, and that is to meet Dr. Vegapunk. Meeting Dr. Vegapunk isn't just important for us, the fans, but it's also important for the character of Franky, because Dr. Vegapunk and Franky are connected in more ways than one. Franky was sent to Dr. Vegapunk's homeland by Bartholomew Kuma, the same person that was also worked on by Dr. Vegapunk. Coincidence? I think not, as both Franky and Kuma are both cyborgs, but I digress. When Franky was sent to the homeland, he learned of Dr. Vegapunk's dream and what he really wanted to do, and maybe ever since Vegapunk joined the world government, he hasn't been able to fulfill that dream and maybe discarded it. And Franky could help remind him of the good nature of Dr. Vegapunk, and as well as they can talk about the upgrades and technology that Franky used to help create his body. And that might be the motivation Vegapunk needed to just leave the world government. Although we don't know much about Dr. Vegapunk and his true allegiances, I think that he's a person that just is allied with science and he doesn't care what side it is, as long as it helps him fulfill his goal that he wants to achieve. But I do not think that Vegapunk is an evil dude whatsoever, because he did fulfill the request of Bartholomew Kuma as well as his dream on his home island. Also, when he was talking to Caesar Clown, he got tired of his shenanigans and got rid of him. But this will be a very important moment for Franky, because Franky does want to meet Dr. Vegapunk, because it was Dr. Vegapunk's technology that helped Franky upgrade and evolve. And before we go, I think we should talk about Franky's heritage, because it was stated by the Franky family that Franky's parents were pirates and they all originated from the South Blue and they abandoned Frank to the sea. This was brought up twice, the second time being when Odin met Franky many years ago, which was kind of crazy, but Franky did mention that he was abandoned by his parents and thus he hates all pirates. It's not something we have to see, but I think it would be very interesting to know who Franky's parents were to just abandon their kid and why. I'm probably looking too into it, but a little observation I noticed is that Franky as a kid looks strikingly similar to Eustace's kid as a kid. They look damn near the same, just different hair colors, and they're both interested in weapons, mechanics. There could be a connection between the two because of the similarities, or there's just something in the South Blue water. In terms of looks and interests, they're very similar, and they both originate and are native to the South Blue. Now, I'm not saying they're related. They might be, they might not. That's more to see in the future, but it's just a little observation I find a little interesting. And a little fun fact for you guys, Franky bears a striking similarity and based off of Jim Carrey's Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, as they wear similar clothing such as the Hawaiian shirts and they have the exact same hairstyle. And in terms of bounty, obviously Franky will surpass the 100 million bounty mark, maybe giving him a bounty of 296 million, which was Bartholomew Kuma's old original bounty before he became a warlord of the sea, would be a little parallel between the two since they're both cyborgs. And I would honestly like him to have a bounty less than Usopp, because it's just funny. Just keep up the joke from Just Rosa where Franky has a less bounty than other Straw Hats even though he put in the most work. To me, it's just hilarious. And most importantly, Franky and Robin will end up together because they are just cute. it is. Anyways, that's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to rate the video, subscribe, and click the bell icon to stay notified. Also follow me on Twitter, fly_flizzy. It's on my description down below, so you can get updates and all that little fun stuff on what I'm doing and when the video will be posted. Also follow me on twitch.tv/flyflizzy, where we live stream, play games, good times, positive vibes, and where we can talk about anime, TV shows, and all that fun stuff. I love Franky and his bombastic personality. He's very flamboyant the way he acts and talks. He's really a fun dude. I love his character. It's very deep when it needs to be. And since we're here, Franky versus Fukuro from Enies Lobby is one of the most underrated fights in the One Piece series. That fight is actually nuts. Also, as of this recording, we're very close to hitting the 1,000 subs, and once we reach that, I think I'm gonna do my favorite Straw Hats from least favorite to favorite. So be on the lookout to that. Hopefully you guys hit that sub button if you're new, because I know most of you guys watching are new. So that will help a lot. I hope you guys all have a great day and a good night. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Toodles!